Going on, everybody? This is Kenny Groom. I am your host of the Beyond Normal podcast. I'm excited to be in this new space with you all. We've been doing some amazing things, trying to figure out what amazing guests we can bring on the platform. Today, I got a very special guest. She goes by Pauleanna Reid. She is a celebrity ghostwriter for high profile leaders, folks out there who are trying to figure out, how to position their brand, business owners, right? And so that's the focus of Beyond Normal, highlighting diverse and underserved founders. And so I thought, hey, why not bring someone with the skill set of a ghostwriter on, who's helping founders and individuals out there to really make sure that their brand is maximized. So without further ado, I want to bring Pauleanna to the stage and get this conversation going. How's it going, Pauleanna?
Good morning. I'm great. How are you?
I'm doing good. I'm excited to have you on as a guest. I saw your profile on LinkedIn, and what stood out to me is, you people think of ghostwriters, right? And it's like they're these phantom figures, right? No,
Mhm.
nobody knows who they are, what they look like. But here's someone such as yourself, your brand, right? Pauleanna Reid, your name is the brand, right? And so I thought it was very important to have you on. We had some great conversations prior to this around how you think about how people should be positioning themselves. And so I said you would be the perfect guest for us as we relaunch, our podcast episodes. So I'm excited to have you on today, and thank you for giving us this opportunity to learn a little bit about ghostwriting and your brand in particular.
Absolutely. I mean, one of the reasons that I became a ghostwriter is simply because I wanted to create a possibility model for other Black and Brown women and girls to consider this pathway as a viable career path. And so any interview I do is moving the needle closer to that.
I love it. I love it. And so I want to hop right in. Give us a little bit of a background into life before you being a ghostwriter.
I've always been insanely ambitious. I've always wanted more for myself. I've always questioned the things that I was taught. I think where I believe my mental health deteriorated is navigating the conversation within myself and among others around the idea that professional success and personal fulfillment could not coexist. I feel like we're conditioned to believe that we can be anything we want to be when we're little. And then when we grow up and go to high school, we're then told that we need to be a little bit more realistic. And so I got caught in that gray area. And so, I've always been a vivid dreamer. I've always, imagined my life in full color. I've always, everything I'm doing today, whether it's on stage or traveling or writing, it started on a napkin or it started in my heart or started in my gut first. And so before I became a ghostwriter, I was exploring many pathways to figure out what success looked like for me.
Mm, that I appreciate you sharing that. As you were talking, some thoughts came into my head about how, 8-year-old Kenny was outside being creative. And then probably for me, at least, when I started to hit like preteens, I was like, oh yeah, I need to be something practical, like
Mm.
you just said. And I think one of the careers that I landed on was like being a stockbroker. Why, I don't know, but it
Yeah.
was just something where I was like, hey, I'm gonna make a lot of money, right? And I get to wear these suits, and it wasn't necessarily a good culture fit for me, right?
Mhm.
In those environments, I quickly learned as I got some exposure to that space,
Mhm.
the suit and the tie and showing up and looking at screens all day.
Mm.
It's boring as hell for somebody like me, I'll be honest, but it just didn't fit, what 8-year-old, 9-year-old Kenny really wanted to do with his life. I was in the comics, I was in the
Mhm.
stories, things like that. And so as you were speaking, I was thinking about, my childhood,
Mhm.
how there was just something that clicked, whether it be school or just the elders in my family telling me you need to have practical skills,
Right.
right? And so I'm curious, like, what did you mentioned like the napkin? like, in terms of, like, storytelling, were you a big reader growing up? Were you, like, writing your own stories? Like, tell me a little bit about how you were in terms of like, what did you think of storytelling at a young age?
Yeah, absolutely. So I was bullied as a kid for the way I walk, talk, dress, who I hung out with, and I'd spent a lot of time alone. And in those quiet moments is when I would doodle in my notebook or write in my scrapbook or my journal and really dream in full color. So a lot of storytelling happened when I put pen to paper because because my high school experience wasn't the greatest, I would think about, okay, when I get out of here, what do I want to do? What does my life look like? Yeah, who do I want to be? What kind of woman do I want to blossom into? But I think for all of us, you mentioned your childhood. I think that one of the reasons why I'm successful today is because I have fought really hard to keep my inner child alive. My inner child craves adventure and is curious and is silly and doesn't take life so seriously. And so I remember, early stages when you're in elementary school being addicted to shows like Sailor Moon and Barney's and Sesame Street and Are You Afraid of the Dark, Goosebumps. Like, I couldn't wait to get home after school or to spend a full Saturday just watching stories. And every single episode had a different storyline. And I've always been fascinated by the anatomy of a story and I've always been really interested in, the beginning, the plot, and how it thickens and how we get to the conclusion and the lessons I could glean from each storyline. So I think honestly, I think all of us are storytellers at heart, but as we get older, more mature and, society and teachers and the curriculum, we kind of some of us just turn into very boring, bland adults,
Mm,
because we feel like the whimsical, magical fantasies that we grew up with, they can't be transformed into real life. And it's like, I'm living my dream life right now. So that's obviously not true.
yeah, for sure. As I think about the founders that we've had on
Hmm.
past episodes, the countless founders we're gonna have on future episodes. Like you said, there's always something where, like, they're stuck thinking about their dreams. Like, they're like, okay, like, you mentioned the inner child. Like, it's pretty some people would consider it childish, right? To go out and you have a
Hmm.
family that you gotta take care of, but be like, "Hey, I wanna start a business in a
Yeah.
field that I don't have a lot of training in." You know what I mean? And
Yeah.
so, like, that inner child, for some reason, I think people look for that, honestly, in the founders or the businesses that they wanna support even at a local level. Like you said, like, there's that natural curiosity and just that enthusiasm that
Hmm.
yeah, that's what I think of when I think of the inner child in myself and others. So I'm curious, like, how does where you are and how you think, how does it lead you to say, "I want to make a business out
Hmm.
of being a ghostwriter," and just all the things that you're doing around being creative? Like, how do you take that next step versus doing something in a creative capacity for a business, an established business?
First, I want to say that keeping your inner child alive doesn't necessarily mean that you need to launch a new company. Keeping your inner child alive could mean that you are seeking adventure, that you are in pursuit of building bravery, that you want to explore your curiosity. And that can be executed through passions and interests. It doesn't always have to be a new business. The second thing is, I questioned everything that I was taught, right? Whether it was the textbook in front of me in the classroom or it was, my boss's workshop presentation in corporate. And I quickly realized once I pursued the dream, society's version of the dream, which consists of a 5 by 5 cubicle, I quickly realized that, a job may determine my salary, but I can determine my total income. I realized that the number on the offer letter is simply what the company can afford. It doesn't amount to my true value. And so once I cracked that code, I was like, oh, life can consist of me coloring outside the lines. I don't have to play within them. But strategically, I was never going to jump ship blindly, right? I really wanted to make sure that I tested the waters first. So that looked like side hustling for 10 years. That looks like working remotely for different agencies. It looks like building my sales skills in various manners. So I knew what the end destination was going to be. And whether it took 5 weeks, 5 months, 5 years or more, I was patient enough until I got to the finish line.
I love it. I love it. And you told me an incredible story, and I definitely want to make sure the listeners have the ability to tap into that. Just around, like you mentioned, the corporate. It doesn't necessarily mean that you have to quit your job. Hey, go full time into something that you're passionate about, and just forget about those bills and just
Mhm.
all that come the responsibilities that come with life and living. I know you we talked about a story where you went to someone in a corporate setting and you asked for that first opportunity to write something
Right.
for them in a ghostwriter
Mhm.
capacity. I think that's a really relevant story. Would you mind sharing a little bit about that experience and how you
Sure.
felt asking, going through that in the first one of those first instances for you being a ghostwriter for some.
So, over the years, I've had peers confide in me and share, moments where they didn't feel like things were coming together, felt discouraged because it just didn't seem like the cards were in their favor. And my response to that is you have to create your own opportunities. You just can't wait for them to fall into your lap. And so I believe success leaves clues. And I was an executive assistant for numerous years at this one company. And I decided that I wanted to jump ship and go to another department, the communications department, which was a natural fit for me because I had already been a journalist for many, many years, top of my game. And when I scheduled a coffee with the head of the department, I was told that I would never land an interview because I don't have a degree, even though my career track record clearly illustrated my capabilities at the highest level. And so that got me thinking. And so, I could have pouted and I could have cried about it and complained about it. But instead, the wheels kept turning to keep looking, keep like, what is the next aha moment or clue that I could pursue in order to like move the needle? Weeks after the president of the company, this is a $1 billion company. The president of the company open what's called office hours. And office hours were merely, once a month, I'm going to open up some time in my calendar. Anybody in the company, anybody in the office can just walk in my door and sit with me for 5 minutes and just let me know what's up. Talk to me. What's going on in your role? And so I took the time to do so. And, one thing I did notice was not many people were walking through her door because, I sat close by. And that really puzzled me because I'm like, this is such a great opportunity to talk to the person who leads this company, this organization, and maybe a handful would walk through. So I took the time and I sat down in front of her and I simply said, I really think your method for fielding talent is flawed, and I explained to her what happened, and she looked at me and, quite puzzled. And I explained to her my background, my expertise, my track record, my receipts, and she was quite intrigued. And so I told her, I'm like, I understand that you do quite a few speaking engagements. I would love the opportunity to ghostwrite for your next engagement. It just so happened that around the corner, she was giving a commencement speech at Lynn College, based in New York. And at that same ceremony, she was also going to earn her honorary doctorate. And I worked with her team to write her commencement speech. And that was a seed that I planted that created a lot of opportunity after the fact. And had I not raised my hand, had I not been sure of myself, confident in my abilities, I really don't think that, I wouldn't have got that opportunity. And that is it was a huge milestone and marker for my portfolio at the time because I was just getting started.
Yeah, That's amazing. Like you had, I think what people call the gumption. If that's a word I could use to walk into an executive's office and tell them a flaw in their process. I'd have to I'd have to imagine that that executive has quite a few people tell them yes, a lot of yeses throughout the day, right? But not that many people have the gumption to tell them no.
Yeah.
As and I've done a little bit of research. There's one actual talk that you had recently. I believe it was at an alumni
Mhm.
event. But this is the quote, and I think it's relevant to this story. You said here, you said, and when you are sure of yourself, just make sure you can back that shit up. How,
100%.
how do you know? How do you know you can back something up before you've done it?
Okay. How do I want to pursue this? So, a track record and receipts, right? And so, when you're first beginning, you're not going to have a portfolio directly tied to the thing that you want to do. But you have to think of transferable skills and invisible tangibles. So, let me just give you an example, a quick story. 6 years ago, I met an executive who works very closely with one of the biggest pop stars in the world, in the globe. And I had interviewed her for a publication. And naturally speaking, I'm very detailed, very meticulous. And her team had asked me to send the questions in advance just so she can prepare. Cool. So, how I organize my questions and my research, I couple them together. And it's very, like, you can tell that I put a lot of thought into this document. It's not just thrown together. When I got on the interview, the first 5 minutes, she raved about how, detailed I was. She raved about how much I paid attention. She said I had never been sent such thoughtful questions, and she was really impressed by those qualities, and she's like, "If you could do this with this interview, like, if that's the magic you can create for this interview, I wonder what you could do if I put you on any other project." 6 years later, she put me in position to be a storytelling consultant for one of the biggest pop stars in the world, right? And so it's not so much about, like, you just have to showcase your talents and your capabilities. And it just I people always ask me, how do I become a ghostwriter? The first thing I say is start a blog, right? Why do I say, like, how does that even relate to ghostwriting anyway? Because you want to show people publicly that you are capable of telling compelling stories, right? And when you show your capabilities in that manner, they will tie it to other projects that they can possibly put you on. Another quick story, years ago, I celebrated my 200th newsletter and I posted it on social media. And, the average person might, be like, okay, that's cute, whatever. But I wasn't appealing to the average person. I have many executives, celebrities, high profile figures that follow me. And what that 200th newsletter represented was consistency, my ability to build community, my ability to commit to something, right? And that I can go the distance with a project, right? And so billionaires and millionaires are consistently looking for invisible tangibles. They're looking for patterns. They're looking for those qualities that, like, require them to read between the lines. And so that's how you can easily build your portfolio, by making sure that you're just showcasing your ability to exercise whatever skills required.
I love that. I love that. The newsletter is something. I don't know if you remember the stats of your first newsletter, but I'm assuming it has grown exponentially. Um, and that's something I think people pay attention to the metrics early
Mhm.
on. A lot of times, I can think back to podcasting. For me, this platform that I have here is amazing compared to what I started with, because I started with like a $50 mic, maybe a
Mhm.
$25 webcam, and it's just like in a Zoom. And Zoom is just like this grittiness, but I love the grittiness. Like I,
Yeah.
I tell people to go back for whatever reason and start with those episodes, right? I want people to see like the journey that I've been on for some reason. I don't know if everybody does that or thinks like that, but just hearing you tell your story, like you got my storytelling antennas up. and thinking back to whatever we start, it's probably not gonna be good when it starts. I think I don't know why
And
people
that's cool.
yeah, I don't know why people forget that at times.
Mhm.
You just touched on working with pop stars. I think that's something first of all, it sounds amazing. Second, I think that there's something around that I wanna touch on and get your opinion on. It seems like, pop stars, R&B stars, things like that, ghostwriting is expected, right? But then there's certain fields or certain crafts where the writing of it has a little bit more value, maybe I could say. So I think of rappers, I think of hip hop artists. There's been this debate the last few years. I think it's really relevant because it's like if you don't write it, but you're the one who performs it,
Mhm.
and this could translate to in your scenario where you're helping someone craft their story, maybe you're writing maybe pieces
Yeah.
of it, but the founder or the CEO or the executive is the one delivering it.
Right.
Who, like, do you feel like someone can be considered the best executive
I
at
know where you're
story
going with it.
the best at telling the story if it's
Mhm.
not necessarily a story that they crafted themselves?
That's a wonderful question. And I often get this question in the comments because people are like, why don't you want credit? Why, like, can we really believe these politicians then? And like, just, I get some wild stuff in the comments. What I'll say is this: it doesn't take away from their brilliance. Just because someone hires a ghostwriter does not mean they're any less intelligent. A ghostwriter is also known as a collaborator. And in every, maybe not every, most projects that we all participate in, no matter what level, what fields, right? We work with collaborators, right? We work with our colleagues, our teammates, right? And so as a collaborator, I help organize your ideas. I help create a safe space for you to articulate, who you are, what you stand on, what you're fighting for, what important conversations you'd like to contribute to, how you'd like to build community, how you'd like to move the needle. Um, I'm also the architect. So once I organize the story, I'm the architect of how it will flow, how it should be delivered. A lot of times my clients are thinking about, what does life look like after they sing their last song? And what does life look like after they throw their last ball? Many of my clients are veteran executives who have been at their company for 20 plus years, and they're now thinking about, who am I beyond my title? What is important to me? How can I detether my identity from what people have known me to be all this time? And so I think confiding in a thought partner is never a bad thing, right? Someone who understands the landscape, someone who can help you navigate certain cultural, societal, generational sensitivities. We all know the emergence of cancel culture. I think I think more people ought to tap into a team that they trust so that they can navigate some of the sensitivities or some of these conversations with more awareness. There have been many times I've seen a tweet or seen someone do something foul in the media, and I'm like, who's advising these people? How did we get here? You know? And oftentimes it's because most celebrities have yes men on their team. And
Mhm.
so when I joined the team, I have a position of authority and people trust my knowledge and expertise. And, you know, when someone wants to shake the room, when someone wants to stand on a hot topic, I'm the first person they call. And there's no other position I'd rather hold.
I love it. Yeah, that and you're up to the challenge, like, it's like
It's a
you're
challenge for me too, because their legacies depend on the advice that I give them. Right?
mhm,
This is not Mickey Mouse shit. This is very serious. Like when you have influence and power, when you have an audience, when all eyes are on you 24/7, every move that you make counts. Right. And so that can be very intimidating and very scary at times, especially if you would like to contribute to a conversation. Excuse me, especially if you'd like to contribute to a conversation that perhaps you are that's a sensitive topic.
Hmm. Yeah. So when someone comes to you, it seems like, or there is a reality that there's a lot at stake. Like you said, like their brands are on the line, their legacies at times for some of these topics.
Yeah.
We all know the hot topics right now that you just say anything about them and they're
Yeah.
buzzworthy.
Mhm.
I'm curious, like when it comes to pricing, what
Mhm.
the value you add, like how do you go about how do you go about quantifying it in a way that you personally feel confident? Like, did you have to? I'm assuming you had to work your way up to asking for the value that you're worth, but maybe not
Yeah.
though. So tell me a little bit about how you think about pricing the value that you add to some of these people that come to you.
Yeah. The one thing that I really love is that when a client hires me, the ones who are serious, some people are just curious, but the ones who are serious, they've done their due diligence. And oftentimes, by the time I get on the call, the prospect call, they've already bought into the brand, right? They've listened to my YouTube, they've read articles, they get lost in my content. So that's also a really great way for the founders listening, right? Create a content library so that you don't have to do a lot of talking, right? That's the first thing. The second thing is, in my early years, actually before I started my agency, I worked remotely for one of the top agencies in North America, top communications agencies. And the founder is still a really great mentor of mine today. And I got to see how a successful communications agency is run, their team structure, their pricing model. And so I would say this, everyone on my team is brilliant. My team consists of content ninjas, like I always say, all women of color. And that's, purposely done by design. And I have my footprint on every project, but I'm not required for every project. Right. And so if you want to work with the top dog, you pay top dollar, you pay a premium. But anyone on my team can handle most of the projects that come through the door. But I determine my capacity based on, the job that's in front of me, what I already have on my plate, whether or not I want to create a learning moment, teaching moment for my team. Sometimes there have been many occasions where the members of my team are better suited for the project than I am, right? I think it's important as a leader, like as a founder, you are the foundation to the company and you have to be aware enough to understand when you can step in and when you need to lean the hell out.
Hmm. I love it, and it's okay to like to your point to lean out. If
Well,
somebody does something better than you, right, and you're paying them, allow them the freedom to add that value for you in their
yeah.
best way possible.
Mhm.
So you mentioned while you were going through that breakdown, you mentioned due diligence, and folks have come to you. A lot of times, folks come to you with the proper due diligence. Like,
Mhm.
is there a certain point in a founder or startup journey where you think a founder should come to you and maximize a conversation or the services that you offer? Or do you meet them where they are in their journey?
I do meet them where they are in their journey, but founders understand, most founders understand that storytelling is plays an integral role in building community. And without community, you don't have leverage. Without community, you don't have sales. Without community, you don't have brand awareness, right? And so I have a lot of founders that may come to me for the purpose of brand messaging, right? This is my company story. This is my founder story, but how do I deliver it in a powerful way? How do I deliver it in a way that captures attention, that shakes the room? How do I deliver it in a way that's meaningful so that people can take away certain lessons from it? There are other times when founders come to us when they have a monumental moment. And not just when I say founders, it could also mean athletes, celebrities, entertainers. They could be accepting an award at the ESPYs, and maybe they have 6 minutes to deliver their speech and they want to use that time wisely. It could be a celebrity giving a commencement speech at a graduation, and they know the influence that they're going to have on the next generation of leaders. And they want to make sure that those 40 minutes are intentional. It could be writing a memoir, autobiography, right? And writing a book of their life story and wanting to make sure that this is a legacy asset. And 20 years from now, people will still fall in love with the story over and over again. Or it could be working with a CEO of a company who is simply doing a video script or, has a partnership with maybe another company, and they want to make sure that the video comes across as lighthearted and charismatic and, has that, those special anecdotes so that people pay attention to the commercial or whatever it is. So there's different pain points, right? It's just everything boils down to how do I tell my story? What is the anatomy of a story? How do I tell my story? And the thing that really gets under my skin sometimes is when I deliver the asset, but it doesn't get delivered properly. So when I submit the asset, we're good on paper, but then it doesn't get delivered properly, right? And so I wrote a speech for a supermodel many, many years ago, and she got on stage and she had cue cards. And I was like,
Mm.
girl, I was devastated, And so over the years, we've also had to media train, and we've also had to work with our clients to make sure that they feel comfortable and confident with the material.
Yeah, I like that story at the end because I think that's that's discovery. Hey, there's some additional value, right? That you can unlock for them. Like you said, the media training helping them in other ways so that they don't have to go up there with the cue cards. I can imagine seeing someone that you've you've spent some time with on an incredible body of work, and then they go up there and they're reading off the cue cards. That could take away from the delivery, the tone that you may want to set right with those words, and so I could understand that. On the flip side, for you as a business owner, there's all this tech out here, tech enabled solutions all over the place. I'm pretty sure you have email people in your email trying to sell you tech solutions all the time. Are there any ways in terms of your business in particular where you'd like to see tech enabled solutions improve or just, support you in ways that you currently are not supported? I'm a big proponent. The reason why I asked, I'm a big proponent of B2B business models. I think that's where a lot
Mhm.
of value can be unlocked. And so I'm curious for you if there's any parts of your business where you'd like to see, just more, more innovation, more maybe tech enabled solutions to
Yeah.
help you and your team.
Maybe project management. I've tried different tools over the years. I can't say I've been really happy with any of them. That's probably like, yeah, because there's so many moving pieces to a single project from
Mhm.
beginning to end. And sometimes it spans months, right? Several months. And so I would say that's probably an area. I mean, I've tried Asana, ClickUp, Monday.com. Well,
Yeah,
like I haven't found one that I was really impressed with.
got it. I wonder if there's a creative or communications kind of market that folks can tap into. I'm just throwing ideas out there because I know there's somebody who's gonna listen. And B2B for me, like exactly what you're doing, I think it's a really cool way to charge what you're worth as long as you're delivering the value that someone sees it for their business versus B2C. And it's a little bit more transactional at times. It can be. B2B is an area I look to see more business owners that look like me and you in that space. So I appreciate
Yeah.
you giving that perspective.
I mean, tech plays a big role in what we do, but actually one of the questions I get all the time is around AI and ChatGPT. And interestingly enough, okay, so in short, how I look at it is, fast food versus soul food, right? Like, obviously, we're the soul food. And so I've had clients sneak away and use the technology. I don't blame them, thinking that it'll be more efficient, it'll output faster, only for them to come back to us and say that it doesn't have that human touch. It sounds robotic. There's plagiarism issues. The gurus that are on the internet pushing people towards this technology, I get it, but I wish that they would balance the good with the bad,
Mm,
right? They're not talking about the character flaws in the technology. And, you know, there are times, like, I have a research department at my agency, and there are times, we may use it, but I'm a little bit old school in that sense. Like, I want us to use our heads. I think we already have a problem solving issue and a critical thinking issue in our country. We have a literacy
mm,
issue in our country. So it's like, it just kills me. Like, I know it's faster and better and you can go further and all these things, but it's like half the country
mm,
reads at a grade 6 level. It's like we're not encouraging reading and writing. Everything is just like emojis and short form
mhm.
and it's like, and now we have these technologies to, you just type in one sentence and it outputs a whole book for you, and it's like that really breaks my heart on many, many levels.
Um, that is, I'm glad you touched on that for this space. You know, it's no surprise that Pauleanna GPT isn't as good as Pauleanna in real life. I'm just saying. You mentioned the grade level thing. I've actually seen videos online where part of the prompt is to make sure that whatever the AI tool is spitting out is at a certain grade level, because to your point, people know that most people are not reading at a grade level above like the sixth or seventh grade at this point, at least here in the States.
Mhm.
So how do we get to a point, like what needs to happen for the blend of the tech, the AI, and creativity to, give us the greatest output possible? Specifically for the younger, I'm
Mhm.
I'm thinking like, I think our generation, it is what it is at times, but just for like those who are coming up with the tool, the young creatives that are out there, the young, the generations after millennials, 'cause I'm a millennial. So what needs to occur in your mind for there to be this blend of the AI and the creativity that allows folks to still critically think, like you said?
I can only talk from a writing perspective, and I'm not against it, right? This is not me, like, dismissing it. I think that all technology has its benefits. I just think we need to be cautious, right? I just think, like, we're oftentimes like flies to a flame, and we just assume that it's like it's everything that we need without questioning the things that we're taught, like I said before. And I think that you can use it in numerous ways. Like I said, like, it's also really good for research purposes. You
Mhm,
don't have to necessarily use it to write your entire essay or to write your website copy or marketing copy. I can see why people feel like it's easier, but like I said, it pains me that people just don't want to use their brains. I remember back in the day in grade school, we did long form math equations. We did division,
mhm,
right? And you have to carry the one and cross the two and da 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 da. And like,
mhm,
it's like I just feel like we just want microwavable content. And when it outputs what we want, so, let's say I need copy for my website and it's brilliantly done. I'm like, oh my God, ChatGPT is amazing. And look what it, but okay, like, do you not want to learn how to get there yourself?
mhm,
Like, why are we like it, like that? It makes me scratch my head. Like, even if I ever used it, right? Like, I would be curious. Okay, like, it got me the output that I wanted, but I wanna learn the formula for myself.
mhm.
And we have the formula, and that's why we eat, and the people who invest in my company and pay a premium and wanna work with us, they appreciate our creative input, they appreciate the process. They don't want fast food. They have no interest. And so, I don't feel threatened by any means. I really, really don't.
Yeah, I think to your point, you mentioned math. I am a math major undergrad. I can tell you ChatGPT is stupid when it comes to math. So I hope nobody is actually going and using that as their main form of calculating real world values and putting them into places that impact a lot of people. As of right now, in this year that we're in, ChatGPT is pretty dumb when it comes to math because it is just taking what is on the internet and trying to do it again, if I can call it that.
Yeah.
And so whatever is out on the internet, it is using. And then as you were talking, I was thinking about the instances. I think we all have experienced this in certain instances over the last couple of years when either Amazon or Google or Microsoft, whenever their servers or their databases go down, a lot of the things that we use go away, like that run on their on their cloud. And so I can think back to like Netflix one time when they had an outage due to Amazon, and then we were at the house with my 2-year old and like, hey, what are we going to do? Because we were like, "Hey, we're gonna watch some Netflix today," and Netflix wasn't there, and it was like it took us maybe 2 minutes to be like, "Oh, we can just go outside and be creative and play with bubbles." So, to your point, get out, touch some grass, be creative, do
Mhm.
some things, pen to paper a lot of times, like you've alluded
I
to.
love it. There's nothing like a whiteboard session.
Yeah,
There's
it is.
nothing like and that's how I approach most things in life, like working it out like a math equation. I love playing chess, it's one of my favorite games. I love
Mm,
playing mind games on my phone. It's just like, my friend, she is amazing. She's a brain health specialist. And, if we sleep to help repair our brains, I would think that creative activities, also benefit our brains in numerous ways. And
mhm.
we just default to the easiest path possible. And it's like, you know, yeah, no, not for me. Like
Yeah.
I actually welcome the challenge.
Mm, I didn't know you like chess. I
I
think
love
we need to
chess.
have a chess game soon. That's really cool. Yeah, you got me thinking about how I can set up chess games with creatives now.
You know what? I look at chess as a metaphor for life and business. And when it comes, especially when it comes to critical thinking skills, and remember I said success leaves clues. And there are times where I feel like the people in my life who, maybe complain or they're down on their luck or they don't feel encouraged, you know, in some cases I do feel like people miss their moment. And there are more coming. But, like, you have to be able to read the room. You have to be able to analyze and assess certain things. Like, certain things are just not gonna be obvious, you know what I mean? You have to know when to pick up the ball and run with it. You gotta know whether to, go for the alley-oop or whether you're gonna three-point or whether you're gonna dribble to the net, like, that part of your brain has to be exercised. It's not there are people who get it and there are people who don't. You know what I It's just like
Mhm,
chess allows when I play chess with my friends, nothing is more alluring to me than just sitting with the board for several minutes and
mhm,
like working out, okay, if I move this one piece, how does that affect the rest of the board and the rest of the game? Like that
yeah,
is the best part, right? Because your brain is like literally playing like it people just don't want to go, they don't want to go there, they don't want to do that, they don't have the patience, they can't be bothered. But if you play chess, you will play life, the game of life, you will be in a different category than everyone else that you know.
yeah, for sure. Yeah, for sure. I second that, and the people that I know, like to your point, that are thinking about chess, they're thinking about their moves. They're thinking about how the other person's moves play into their strategy or their story, right? And so I can definitely see you got me excited about playing some chess soon. It's been a while.
Nice.
So you have shared a lot. I appreciate this is amazing for me. Just seeing someone again. I saw your story. I saw your work. I appreciate anyone who puts the time and energy and making sure that they've got that content out there that lasts forever. that resonates and allows people to connect with you when they want to, or when they find you. And that was something, the brand of Pauleanna, right?
Mhm.
I think it's easy to find, and then you give people so much content for them to digest at their own pace, and questions just naturally pop up as I've digested your content. It's allowed me to prepare for this interview, but then in
Yeah,
addition to that, right, it allows me to think strategically about my business and just figure out how others are thinking about telling their story, which is core to our platform, the platform I'm building with Beyond Normal.
wonderful. Thanks for having me on. This was great.
Yeah, thank you so much. How can folks What's the best way for folks to tap in with you? Um,
Yeah, I'm
you
very
or the brand.
accessible. I'm very accessible. You can Google me. I'm everywhere. Email, Instagram, DM, like I answer everything. So I'm easy to find.
Appreciate that, and kudos. It's no surprise that, to your point, you have the Google first page of Google on lock. No surprise there, but I always gotta shout out people at the end of the call.
For
If your
SEO is
brand
phenomenal.
Yeah, if your
Not just for
brand
my personal name, but like for my industry as well. It's
Mhm.
the best. Again, fast food versus soul food. People sleep on SEO. There
Yeah.
are SEO analysts that specialize in ranking on Google. And this is like an old school thing. This used to be big back in the day. But
Mhm.
now it's like, people, obviously, primarily people lean toward content but
Mhm.
like when someone types in keywords, you should pop up on the first page.
Yeah,
We
easy.
get so many inbound inquiries just because someone Googled Black ghostwriter, African American ghostwriter,
Mhm.
ghostwriting agency. And it's because I commissioned an SEO analyst to make that happen. I didn't even exist on Google before I started working with him. So just a
Mm.
tidbit for some people to think about, like, the pathways that are less traveled, you may want to
Yeah,
reconsider
explore
them.
it. Yeah,
Mhm,
don't go where everybody else is going just because. I
mhm.
like That's the perfect way to end. She's ending with a drop in the gym, mic drop moment. Thank you so much, Pauliana, for sharing your story with our audience. I'm pretty sure folks are going to be able to digest this and have some questions, and then have some answers in terms of the story that they want to tell with their brand, their personal brand, or their business. Thank you so much for
Here.
taking the time.